This is the Time Management Workshop for Retail Managers. This workshop will help you become a more effective manager by providing concepts and tools that will enable you to take better control over your time. How often do you feel like this? Too much to do, not enough time to do it all, and frantic pressure to get it all done. Or like this, running just to put out another fire. Wouldn't it feel great to be in control of your time instead of time controlling you? We all have the same amount of time in a day. Sure, you can choose to work 10 hours or 12 hours or even 15 hours a day, but there's a limit. There's actually only 24 hours in a day, and more to the point, you can't maintain a 15-hour per day pace at work for very long and still be an engaged leader. But good time management can make all the difference in the world. It can be the difference between achieving consistent and inconsistent results, or the difference between having productive and unproductive days, or be the difference between great leadership and mediocre leadership. It can be the difference between peaceful days and stressful days at work. And it can be the difference between feeling successful or feeling like a failure when you're at work. If you want to feel better in your role as a manager, start by taking the steps necessary to become better at managing your time. This workshop can absolutely change your life as a manager. Let's start with a little demonstration that will lay out the key concept that will be at the foundation of our workshop. We're going to do a little time management demonstration. This demonstration is based on the teachings of Stephen Covey and his best-selling book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. In his book, Covey teaches us about the big rocks, those things that are most important for us to accomplish in our workday or in our life in general. Typically, this demonstration is done with actual rocks. Well, I decided for this demo to make it a little bit easier on myself than going outside and digging up rocks. I chose to use some items that I just have sitting around the house. For those of you who are parents of boys, you'll appreciate the things I was able to find easily and the things that will be used in this demonstration. The first thing we've got is a clear plastic cup. Of course, this isn't completely clear. It's got the information for my boy's favorite baseball team on the front, but this clear plastic cup represents the time we have in our day to get things done. The second item I was able to find is some plastic golf balls. These golf balls represent Covey's big rocks. These are the things that are most critical for us to achieve or get done in our day or in our life. The third thing I was able to find was a bowl of Legos. The Legos represent those items that maybe aren't as important as the big rocks, but they're urgent items and they do require our attention at some point. And the final item I have is a little cup of sand. The sand represents all those other things that come up during the day that require our attention or pull our attention away. So we're going to see how much of this we can fit into our day. We're going to start by taking all those pesky things that come up during the day and we're going to put that into our day and then we're going to take the Legos, those other urgent items that come up and you can see our day's starting to get a little full. Now let's try and put our 7 golf balls, our 7 big rocks in here, and it's not such a good story. We can't fit all of these really important things into our day. Well, let's take a little bit of a different approach. Let's clear out our day and let's start over. I have my empty cup. I've got my same cup of sand. I've got a bowl with the same number of Legos, and I've got the same 7 golf balls or big rocks. So let's start a little differently. Let's this time put our 7 big rocks in first. Okay, now they all seem to fit, right? Let's next put in our Legos, or the urgent things that come up that aren't necessarily as important as our big rocks. And then finally, let's put in all this other stuff, all these other items that come up during the day, and Well, what do we find? We find that we can actually fit it all into our day just by organizing it a little bit differently. We're going to talk about this in more detail in our next section. So what's the big lesson from that little time management demonstration? When we allowed the smaller, less important things to take top priority in how we spent time in our day, we couldn't fit in the really important things. But when we prioritized the larger, more important items, we somehow were also able to fit the smaller things into the open spaces around our day. And more importantly, we were able to get all of the big, important things done. That's the key and the foundation of our workshop. We must build our time around the most important priorities, and then we must work the other stuff around those priorities. Okay, so the next step is for us to determine just what tasks are the most important priorities for us to build around. Managers take on 3 different kinds of tasks. We have individual tasks, administrative tasks, and managerial tasks. Individual tasks are those things that can really be done by anybody on the team. Some examples of individual tasks are helping customers, replenishing merchandise, ringing the cash register, and doing visual displays. In a retail banking or financial services environment, it would include tasks such as opening accounts, taking deposits, and restocking brochures. Administrative tasks are those things which must be done to keep the business moving and should be done by managers, at least some of the time, though they don't involve supervising other people. Some examples of administrative tasks include reading email, preparing the daily bank deposit, submitting maintenance order requests, checking in shipments, and completing staff work schedules. In the retail banking world, some administrative tasks include balancing ATMs and performing audit or compliance functions. Managerial tasks are tasks that involve managing, supervising, or directing others. Examples of managerial tasks include delegating tasks or projects, following up on employee performance, interviewing and hiring, training, and communicating with the team. So, which of these categories of tasks are the big rocks for you as a manager? Which are the pebbles and which are the sand? Well, you should consider 3 things. First, only managers can do the managerial items. Second, the team needs somebody to do the managerial tasks in order to achieve maximum levels of performance. And therefore, managers cannot sacrifice on the managerial items. So, the answer should be clear. Managerial items are the big rocks, are the golf balls in our case. Administrative tasks are the pebbles, are the Legos in our demonstration. And individual tasks are the sand that fits in around everything else. So now we'll move on to talk about how we actually identify what falls into each category and how we make this happen for ourselves. The key to building our time around the big priorities, meaning around the managerial tasks, is for us to plan and schedule. The wisdom of planning was expressed by good old Abe Lincoln when he famously said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 sharpening my axe." There are 4 steps that we need to take in order to establish our plan and our schedule. First, we list all the tasks that we have to do and their frequency. Second, we determine the amount of time and the best time to complete each task. Third, we group tasks together into routines wherever possible. And fourth, we turn it all into a schedule. We're going to talk about these each in detail. Let's start with step 1. List all tasks you must do and their frequency. This is about brainstorming. Try to think of everything, no matter how small. Include things you do every day, things you do every week, and things you do every month. Include things you do randomly, not just the regular recurring items. There's no need at this point to organize them. Just pull out a blank piece of paper and jot down as many things as you can think of. For each item that you list, indicate whether the item is a daily, weekly, or a monthly task. It may be best to do this step with a couple of peers in order to make sure that you capture as many items as possible. The step could take quite a while. Give it the time it needs because you want your list to be as complete as possible. The items that populated on the screen here are examples of the type of items that should be recorded. For the sake of moving on with this presentation, I only list a small sample. Your actual list will have many, many more items. Next, you'll take your brainstorm list and sort it into a 3x3 grid. I show here a blank piece of paper that's been separated into 3 columns and 3 rows. Depending on how large your brainstorm list is, you may be better off using 3 separate pieces of paper or even 9 separate pieces of paper. In any event, the columns are labeled daily, weekly, and monthly. The rows are labeled managerial, administrative, and individual. Transfer all items from your brainstorm list into the appropriate box on the 3x3 grid. This step requires a good assessment of each task to determine which row it properly fits in. To do this, you'll need to remember the definitions of the 3 types of tasks. Yes, there may be some gray area. In other words, there may be some items for which it's hard to determine whether they are administrative or individual tasks. That's okay, just be sure you properly identify the managerial tasks, since those are the real big rocks. You'll see here that I have indeed transferred all 11 items from our sample list into the appropriate box. The next step, and step 2 in our planning process, is to determine the amount of time needed for each task and the best time for each task to be executed. You'll see that I've entered that information into our 3x3 grid here in red text. If there are specific times, such as 8 a.m., list those times. If not, use general statements such as early morning. Once you have time estimates and the best times to execute determined for each task, you're ready to move on to step 3. Step 3 is to group the tasks together into routines wherever possible. There's a couple of good reasons to do this. First, it will be easier to schedule one routine that includes several tasks than it will be to schedule those individual tasks separately. Second, it will also be easier to execute one routine because over time the routine will become a habit. One habit is easier to remember than a series of separate tasks. Here is an example of how some of our listed items could be turned into routines. First, in the purple text, I have taken the managerial and administrative tasks that are best performed in the early morning, and I've turned them into a single AM management routine. Now, instead of the 4 separate tasks we originally had listed, we have one AM routine that has 4 items and will be completed every morning. This can easily be turned into a checklist, and that will remind us of the exact things we need to do every morning as part of our AM management routine. I've done the same thing for weekly sales coaching. This has also become a routine which captures multiple tasks. So in this quick example, I've reduced 7 separate tasks down into 2 routines. The 4th step is to turn our routines and our remaining tasks into an actual schedule. In line with the key lesson from our Big Rocks demonstration, we build in our managerial tasks and routines first. So you see here that I've plugged into the schedule our AM management routine, the weekly sales coaching routine, and the all-important responsibility of manager on duty, as well as the leftover managerial task of writing the monthly staff schedule. By setting up the schedule in this way, I've effectively blocked off the periods from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. and from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. every day. If we follow the schedule, it will prevent us from getting sidetracked during those times with some other task that is less important than our managerial function. Note that there will likely be days where there are multiple managers working, and managerial routines can be split between the managers. For example, one manager might take the AM management routine, while another takes the manager on duty responsibility. In other words, the system works best when all managers are using it and the schedules are integrated. Next, you must layer in other, less important tasks. In this case, I've entered time into the schedule for the individual task of covering staff breaks to provide service to customers. This is a consideration for smaller locations where the staffing level requires managers to serve in that role at some point during most days. The difference is that by using our proactive time management system, the manager's time in an individual contributor role is built around the manager's managerial functions, ensuring that the managerial functions don't fall through the cracks. The final piece of our schedule is to build in firefighting time. The red blocks of time are kept free of other expectations so that they can serve as dedicated time to deal with the unexpected things that come up each day. Things that might come up include special requests from headquarters, one-off problems that need to be resolved, or unique staff issues that must be handled. Okay, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, you don't know how it works around here. Things pop up all the time and I can't control when they all pop up. Of course you can't. The firefighting time is not meant to be a prediction of when the fires will pop up. So how do you use the firefighting time? First, try to stick to your schedule. If you can delegate the handling of a fire that has popped up, do so. For example, if the pop-up involves a special customer request, ask another member of the team to handle it. That way you can stay on your schedule. Another option is to postpone handling of the item that has popped up. If it's a phone call with a non-emergency request for research on some topic, write it down and handle it during your scheduled firefighting time. Again, that allows you to stay on schedule. If you have no choice and must handle the pop-up item immediately and by yourself, then do so. But use the firefighting time that you blocked off for later in the day to adjust your schedule for the day. For example, move the managerial routine that you were in the middle of to the firefighting block of time. It may not be perfect in terms of timing, but at least your managerial responsibilities won't fall completely overboard. By having your days structured with a schedule like the one we've discussed, you'll be in greater control of your time. No, you still won't be able to predict everything that you'll need to do every minute, and you won't be able to stick to the schedule 100% of the time, maybe not even 80% of the time. But when you do need to stray from the schedule, you'll always be keenly aware of what you missed when your plans got changed, and that will allow you to more easily get back to whatever it is that you did miss. So that brings us to the end of our time management workshop. It will take practice and discipline to make this work, so don't expect it to be effortless, but the effort will be worth it. I want to leave you with 3 final bits of wisdom that will summarize what we covered in this workshop. First, your success as a manager starts with how you manage your time. No matter how strong a leader you are, how good a coach you are, or how good of a team you have, you and your team will never reach your full potential if you don't do a good job of managing your time. Second, you must always start by building your schedule around the managerial responsibilities. Your team can't manage itself. Otherwise, there would be no need for you and your position. The managerial tasks that you perform are vital to the team's success. And as our Big Rocks demonstration showed, you risk not fitting in the managerial tasks if you allow your schedule to be prioritized with the smaller, less important individual tasks. And finally, your plan must always be a living document that you constantly revisit and adapt as needed. Conditions are constantly changing. New expectations emerge and new tasks become necessary. Your schedule must reflect the reality of today, not yesterday. So keep the list of your tasks fresh and keep updating your schedule as things change. I'm certain that you'll find more happiness and greater success when you use the concepts in this workshop to take control over your time. For more retail management lessons, check out my books available on Amazon, Kindle, or Audible. Book number 1, The Retail Management Formula, a navigational guide to consistently effective retail management. Or my second book, The Retail Leadership Profile, a guide to hiring, developing, and becoming top retail talent. Visit theretailmanagementformula.com online or on Facebook.